So I just finished reading The Pelican Brief by John Grisham. So instead of putting this book back on the bookshelf so it can get all dusty and I'll never read it again, I'm going to show you how to start your book art assignment, the book page folding. So the first thing you have to do before you get started is you have to come up with a plan. If you don't know what to do or you struggle with making bubble letters, because that's going to be one of the things that you'll need to do, you can go back and watch one of my other videos. It shows you how to do bubble letters. So for my project, what I've decided to do is I've decided to do my initials. So right now I've taken the sheet of paper that's got all those little lines on it. I've drawn a great big D, and my B is around here somewhere, but my basement's a mess, so I'll find it later. But this is enough to get us started. So you can see on this paper, it's a series of lines that are about 1/8 of an inch apart. Each one of those represents a fold. So once you have your drawing drawn on this paper, you need to know how many folds your design is going to take up. So to make your life easier, what I did is I painstakingly counted each individual line, and on the bottom or on the top, depending on which way you have this paper oriented, there's little hash marks. Can you guys see those? So each one of those little marks represents 10 folds. So it's 10 between each one. So to make it easy to count, I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88. I have 88 folds in my design. Now, in the Pelican Brief, there are 303 pages. So after I have my design drawn on the lined paper and I have my book, I have to figure out what page to start on so that my design lies directly in the middle of this of the book. I don't want to start my design on page 1 and then have 40 or 50 extra pages. I also don't want to start my design and then realize halfway through that my book doesn't have enough pages. So I want to do the math to make sure, number 1, that it's centered, number 2, number 1, that it's going to work, and number 2, that it's centered. So to do the math, the equation is you take 1/2 of P, and P stands for the number of pages in the book. You subtract the number of folds, we'll call it F, and then you divide that number by 2. So it looks like that. So 1/2 P minus F over 2. You could also do it like this. I talked to give a shout out to Miss Zambanis. I went and talked to her, and she showed me how to write it out this way, because the fraction on top of a fraction made me feel weird and itchy on the inside. So you could write it out that way also. 1/2 P minus F divided by 2 equals X. And X is, of course, your starting page. So in this case, with 88 folds and 303 pages, my equation is going to look like this. So it's going to be 303 over 2 minus 88, and all that is going to be over 2. So here on the bottom is my equation. So because I'm not good at head math, I'm going to pull out my pocket computer, and 303 divided by 2 equals 151.5 minus 88 equals 63.5. So now I'll take 63.5 and divide it by 2, which gives me 31.75, or 31 3/4. So because I can't start on a fraction of a page, I have to pick a page to start on. The other thing that I didn't tell you in the beginning is that you've got a lot of extra pages in the front. So page 1 is not the very first page in the book. So if your math is off by like 1 or 2 pages, you check, but you might your design might work. So here, this is page 1 in my book, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra pieces of paper in the front, and then the last page. So here's page 303, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 blank pages at the back as well. So this math is not absolutely correct because of those extra, the title page and all that stuff, and then the extra pages in the back. So 31.75, I know that I'll still be visually centered if I round up and start on page 32. So I will start on page 32, and I'll write that down. Now, I'm not ready to start folding yet, but now I know what page I need to start on. So before I actually start folding my designs, I have to prep my book. And what I want to do is I want to make a cut at the top and a cut at the bottom so that when I fold my pages, all of my pages fold back to the same spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my book. I'm going to take a ruler. And I am going to draw a line. Let's see. How big is this? So these pages are like 5.5 inches from here back to the binding. So if I fold them back, I'll fold them back an inch. So I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to make a line that's 1 inch from the binding. And it doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be close, but it's got to be consistent. How do I want to do this? So I'm going to use the flat edge. I don't know. Can you guys see my ruler? I'm going to use the flat edge of that ruler to draw my straight line. So I'm looking at the 1 inch mark on the ruler, and I'm lining the 1 inch mark up with the binding, and then I'm going to draw that line right across the top. And I'm going to go 1 inch, like I said, at the top and also at the bottom. So there we have it. And both sides now look the same. And the other thing I want to do is when I start folding, I want to make sure that the book is right side up, because it's going to look stupid if the book is upside down. So now I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut right along that line that I've just drawn. And I want to make a pretty good slice, because it'll feel like you're cutting through. It'll feel like you're cutting pretty far into these pages, but then when you open up your book, like, you can barely see anything. All right, so I've just opened up now to the middle of my book, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on the video, but that cut comes down. Yeah, you're definitely not going to be able to see that. It comes down about 1/16 of an inch. I can absolutely see the cut, not just the line that I have drawn at the top, but I can actually see that I've cut into the paper just a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. And when you cut, please be careful. Make sure that your fingers are out of the way. Doing stuff like this, it's always easy to forget where your hands are when you're trying to hold something still. So my cut is good here. My cut is good at the top. So now I'm ready to go to page 32, because that's what my math says to do. So here's page 31 and page 32. So this is where, so 31.75 was where my math worked. So I'll fold page 31 and 32, and that'll be my starting page with my design. So I've already got a book started. I've done a little bit of it, and you can see some of those folds, but it's still not enough done to actually be noticeable. It's not enough there to actually have taken shape yet. But I'll just continue. And a lot of this, once you reach this point, once you have your book, you have your design, you've done your math. Once you've done all this stuff, from this point on, it's a lot of wash, rinse, and repeat. So you're not doing much different from page to page, but there might be there will be a little bit of problem solving that you might run into depending on what kind of letters you're doing. But it's all, you're working towards the same thing every time you fold a page. So to help me kind of keep this clean while I work, not from getting messy, but just to keep pages from falling in on me, I found a big rubber band, and I've actually wrapped it around so that I can keep track. The pages that I folded already go into the rubber band, and obviously these have yet to be done. So one thing that you do want to do, you want to keep track of which folds in your design you've done. So as you do them, cross them off. It seems like a lot more work, and it seems like it's going to slow you down a lot. But if you lose your place and you forget where you are exactly, it's a guess. And you're either going to get it or you're going to screw it all up. And to prevent that, just keep track of your stuff. So my paper, you want to have your paper lined up the same way each time. So the book is a little bit smaller than my page. So what I did was I folded. Now, if your book is longer, I would suggest picking either the bottom or the top. I have a book here that's bigger. A whole stack of stuff that's about to fall. So this dictionary is not a good example either. Yeah, anyways, if your book, so the paper is just slightly smaller than the dictionary. So what I would do is I would decide either to align my paper at the bottom of the page or align it at the top, if that makes sense. So if it was a bigger book, either the D would be shifted towards the bottom or it would be shifted towards the top, just to make sure that you're not sliding that paper as you fold your design, so that when you put your paper into the book to line it up, you know, if you have a thick a book that's tall, you know, you could vary by a lot. So you have to pick a spot and stick with it. So I've folded the bottom edge of this paper just by a little bit, and I am going to align this bottom edge with the bottom edge of all the pages in my book. So let's see, get you guys a little bit closer here. So each one of these little marks on my design, each one of these little marks indicates that I've already folded that page. So now I'm on this fold right here. So I'm going to line that fold up and line it up and put a little bit of a mark and a little bit of a mark. And then I am going to use my ruler and I can use the back of an X-Acto knife. I'm going to score the page. I can use the back of an X-Acto knife. I can use a mechanical pencil with the lead retracted. I'm just going to score the page. So I'm not cutting it. I'm only making it so that it's easy to fold. And I'm just going to fold that down just like that. And then I'll do the same thing over here, so you can see that I've got that little orange dot there. I'm going to use my ruler. And I'm using the back of the X-Acto knife. So the blade is right here, so I'm actually using the back of it just to put enough of a score on that piece of paper so that that piece folds like that. And because those were the only, I just had a fold at the top and a fold at the bottom, I cross that line off. And I'll tuck it into my rubber band. So the same thing. Here. There we go. Make a mark there. Make a mark down here. And I had a mark there, but it was not the right one. So check it off on my sheet. Now put the lines. And I'm not pressing at all. It's tough to do with carpal tunnel. Rubber band. It appears I've also lost track. Let's see. So this is 37. So I forgot I did this. I started folding, and then instead of doing one by one, I actually wrote the page number on the bottom here and just the last. So this line here, it's 9. Yeah, so it'd be 9, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 1. So all the odd numbers. So there's a 9 right here. So which indicates that this line should be for page 139. This line is for 141. This line is for 143. This line is for 145. This line is for 147. This line is for 149. And this line is for, wait. Now I got 141 written there. Shoot, I'm all mixed up. All right. So if this is 141, let me figure out what I'm doing here. This is 141. So this is 131. So this should have been 133. So here's the problem that you run into when you don't cross off the ones. Luckily I had this down here. So I didn't cross off these. And it's a good thing that this is such a big design. So I actually folded these two when I used these as my folding templates when I was actually folding these 2 pages. So I should be on 133 right now. So I'm going to fix that before this gets out of hand. So all I'm going to do to fix it now, all I'm going to do is finish crossing these off. So I should be on 130. So I just folded page 131. So I'm on page 133 to fold. So this is page 133. So I'm going to cross off these other 3 behind it. So now my crossing off and my folds are all aligned and up to date. All right. All right, 133. Yes, good. That's right. So I've already got my dots drawn. I'm going to finish these up with these dots, and then I'll start fresh here. And that might make more sense for you and for me. There. There we go. So, now when you get to the center, so the D has a piece. It's not just a one solid shape. Like there's a hole in the middle. And there's a way that I did that makes it actually pretty easy. So, okay, I'm at 137 now. I've not been crossing these off. I should fix that. So 36 and 35 are done. So now I'm at 137. And I'm at a part of my design where I'm going to have a piece at the bottom and then a piece at the top. And I'm going to have to figure out how to fold this middle. So I did that back here. I folded, so it's this part of the book here where I've got the folds at the top, but then I've also got a fold inside. So you'll notice that mine, all of those folds all converge to the same spot. And you want it to do that because otherwise, like the whole inside of all your letters are going to look messy. And you don't want them to look messy. You want it to look clean. So what I've done is, first of all, I line this up. I made my marks where they needed to go, but now you notice that I've got this red line running through the middle. That's where I want So right here is where I want my fold to be. I want it to be in line with this red line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, and let's see, I came out. So on this one, in this book, when I did my cuts, let's see how bad that messes us up. Not terrible. So on this book, I've got 1 inch, but on the one I'm working on here, I did 1.5 inches. So I want my center, I want to find out where this line ends, 1.5 inches from the binding. So I'll put my ruler down, make sure my paper is lined up, and then I'll measure 1.5 inches. All right, now make a mark. So I've got a mark there. Now, to speed up the process, instead of doing that every single time, I'm going to take a marker. I'm going to take a darker marker. That rhymes. And I'm going to make sure that's out of the way, put that marker right there, and I'm going to let it set for a couple seconds. I'm going to let the marker bleed through the pages. So now I've got 3. I was able to mark 3 pages in one motion. All right, so I'm on page 137 now. So I've got it marked. So this is going to go to here. This is going to go to here. This is going to go to here. And this is going to go to here. And I'm going to make a cut right in the middle. That. There's that. And I'm going to have to cut a series. If I was close to this edge, I would have put a piece of cardboard or a cutting mat underneath there. But I know that I'm going to have to cut quite a few of those. Actually, let's do some counting. So this is page 141. How many of these middle pieces am I going to have to cut? So basically, I'm going to have to cut to whatever page. I'm going to have to cut in the middle of whatever page this is. So if this is 141, every mark here is 10. So it's 150. Wait. Every page is 2. So it'd be 20 pages. So every 2 pages is 1 sheet of paper. So that means if this is page 141, this has to be page 161. because my folds are only on odd pages. So it's 161, 181, 201. So page 201, page 203. So page 203 213. So there's page 203. So all of these pages are going to have to be cut in the middle. So I will put my cutting mat in the middle there. And I'm using the previously cut pages as a guideline. Make sure I'm going through all of them. And there we have it. And I just double check, make sure I'm 1.5 inches. I am. So now all those pages are cut. So now I've got all my cuts. It's actually a really good way to do it. That didn't even dawn on me until just now. So now to fold these middle pieces, I'm going to score a line from the center to that edge, or to that dot rather. Just like that. So now I'm starting to work on this. So now I'm starting to work on these two pieces that are eventually going to close in and complete the round front end of the D. So I'm going to do just a couple more. So I've got these dots. I did them earlier. So I want to get to a page that has not had any work done on it previously to making this video. And I'll tell you what, when I did my design, I wish I would have done smaller letters. Because working here this close, these folds on either end are kind of a pain. Because they don't, it's such a flat angle. Like this dot here is so close to the edge that angle is really, really hard to fold. So when you're doing your design, when you're doing your planning phase, I would try to make something a little bit smaller. So when I go back and when I actually do the book art for the Pelican Brief, that's something that I'm going to keep in mind for sure. All right, here we are. So I've got this cut, but I don't have any marks drawn. And I'm on page 143. Keep forgetting to cross these off. 141, 142, 143. There we go. I'll put that in there. Yeah, I make a mark there, 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 and there. Cross it off. I don't know if you guys heard that. My stomach's growling. I'm hungry. So I don't have any more marks here, but I can see where that cut stops. So that's going to be my mark. Right where that cut stops. There we go. Yeah, that's a real small angle. Very difficult. All right, so that's where I'm going to stop. You guys get the hang of it. And I'll show you. So I said that angle of my design, like my design is drawn so close to that edge that it's made it kind of difficult to fold those. So you can see there how it's kind of messy. I'm going to have to go back through and clean that up afterwards. But here, just to give you, so I'm going to kind of press it down. So that's my design so far. So you could see, like, these pages, you can tell which ones were done previously and which ones were done just now. Obviously, the paper is still kind of holding its form from being flat, but it'll squeeze together over the course of time. But I mean, so this much, you can see how much of that design based on how much of these things I've got crossed off. So this much of my design is only that big. So you can see the difference. And when you plan out your design, so it's, so I've done this much, right? And it takes up that much room in my book. Obviously, I'd spread it out a little bit more. But you can see that this is considerably longer than this. But if my design has what was it, 88 pages? Should be able to get done. Actually, that would be, so this, just this one page, right? I don't know, whatever. I forgot what I was talking about. My design has 88 pages, but I don't know what design I was talking about. I've forgotten already. I think it was this letter. So if there's 88 pages, 88 folds on here, if you get 20 in a class period, then you'll be done I would be done with that letter in a week. So depending on how big your design is, how many letters you have, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you're doing an hour a day. So hope this video helps. And like I said, if you're doing your design and you don't quite know how to do these bubble letters type things, you can check out, I did another video wearing the same watermelon shirt. Check that out in the links. So see you next time.